First off, I just want you to know, if you're in a funk, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're overcome by despair, that's okay. That is okay. You're not alone. There's some crazy energy, because we know a rapist, a criminal, a guy who basically has been promised immunity and promised that he's gonna just burn down all of our institutions and harm a whole bunch of people, and we don't know who. So that energy and the energy of millions of Trump loyalists who are filled with toxicity and hate all together, there is a global energy right now centered around the US that is like super overwhelming. And I'm sure you're feeling it, and it's okay. But I'm here to promise you, as somebody who has survived childhood sexual abuse and years of drug addiction, you will make it through, okay? You will make it through. Just make sure you're staying in touch with those feelings and allowing it, and not trying to cover it up with addictions or other behaviors, because that'll only make it worse. You don't want to self-destruct yourself because of those feelings. You got to realize they're going to feel like it's going to kill you, but it will not. We are strong, powerful, resilient beings. And when in doubt, know that I got you, and I'll give you some energy, but it may take a while. Some people are going to feel that for months. My girlfriend feels it like profoundly, bro. She's a very connected to the energy of the world person. She has antenna that let a lot of that energy in. And man, she is in it. And so it's okay. We are the resistance. We are here to get each other through. And I'm telling you guys, I believe in this. What we're going through with Trump and all this negativity, it ain't gonna be easy. This next 4 years is gonna be a lot of toxicity, man. Let me just put it in perspective. We went through some stuff in the 50s and the 60s. Our path to the Civil Rights Act of 1964, to the end of segregation, where people died. People went in and sat at lunch counters, white people with black people, and they poured shit on them, and they beat them up. They ran them off the road. They murdered them. It is an ugly part of America's history, this racism, this xenophobia, this white Christian power. It is inherited in our DNA here in America. And after Obama became president, we are off the hook on this now. And now we got Trump. They're trying to bring back the N-word and the F-slur and all this shit. And you have, billionaires like Elon Musk from apartheid South Africa. Coincidence? As a part of this, I believe we are in America's second civil rights movement battle right now. And it's women and minorities and the LGBTQ. And it is not for the faint of heart, guys. We are going to see the ugliest, nastiest racism and misogyny. You're already seeing it. And the people that are like threatening and shit. And believe me, we're on day 2. It's going to get worse. It is going to get worse. We are going to go through a very dark period now. But I promise you, if we stand up and we keep pushing for accountability to be had, we're gonna win this battle. Because one thing I know, as somebody who has grown up and sometimes had the whole world of abuse and hate and bullying and attacking like just lined up against me, compassion and healing always wins, man. It always wins. And again, though, Trump is the dividing line. And we knew it was going to come to this, okay? During the campaign, I was on board with Kamala Harris. She was going to, put a Republican in her cabinet, and there was going to be a peaceable, you reject Trumpism, we'll all get together and work together. And the country abandoned that. So now we have war. And maybe if things get really bad, we may have to do some type of large-scale protesting and or fighting. We don't know how bad it's going to get, guys. We do need to have a sense of awareness about something. And it's this picture of Afghanistan. Those of you who think we are overreacting about Project 2025, these are women in Afghanistan in the 1970s. When I was a kid, this is what they looked like. They wore skirts, they dressed up, they went to college, they had jobs. And same in Iran. If you go to Afghanistan now or Iran now, all the women there are covered in black robes. They are basically property of their husbands. They have a significant reduction in rights. I'm not going to judge their religion, whatever. It's extremism. I don't believe in it, but they've done it. It was a religious takeover of the country that went from this to the black robes and being controlled. The reason why I bring this up, guys, is because we are experiencing the start of this in America. Ours is going to look different, but Christianity and the Project 2025 people, the people behind Trump and JD Vance, want to do this to us. And what it'll look like here in America is concentration camps for immigrants that maybe get expanded to transgender and or political opponents. We don't know, but it's going to start with rounding up immigrants and police forces and ICE forces causing terror. Now, the point of rounding up the immigrants and causing the terror, even if they don't do it wide scale, is to scare us, to let us know that if you get out of line, you might get rounded up too. The same way that those bomb threats at the polling places, they weren't really going to bomb a polling place. They were just threatening the bomb threat in order to scare people from going to vote. They want you to fear. They want you to be afraid. This is how controlling regimes do this. I had a job that was run by a controlling owner. He called a meeting once and gave us this big spiel about how we were failing his business. It was a bar. I had worked at that bar for 9 years. This guy had taken over only for a couple of years. You know what he did? One day I stood up in the work meeting and I said, hey, don't talk to us this way. Don't disregard your employees. Actually, you and the managers have been making really poor management decisions. And I think the reason we've kind of suffered a lack of business is because of decisions you've made. And you should actually listen to us. And you know what they did? They fired me the next morning. You know why they fired me? To send a message. They sent a message to all of the people that worked at that bar that if you speak up, if you call us out, even if you're the most senior person here who has worked here for 9 years and is synonymous with this bar, we're going to fire you. The next day they called me in and said, we have to meet with you. And I went in and I had my key ready. I already knew I was getting fired. And the manager who I'd known, obviously for 9 years, was like, dude, I'm really sorry about this. I'm like, dude, don't worry about it. You just did me the biggest favor ever. Because the place was turning into a dump. But the point is, they try to send a message to silence you, to get you to be afraid. But my thing is, if they dismantle the Department of Education, if they use the post office law to ban mifepristone, if we start seeing Project 2025 things, we do need to fight back. We do need to get 1 million people in the streets going to Washington, D.C., and letting them know that you ain't going to push us around. We're not going to go down without a fight. It's true. We had this here during BLM in Portland. We fought back against the cops here in Portland. We locked arms with the wall of moms. And we were like, you need to mind your fucking manners. And we may have to do that in large scale because it could get ugly, guys. But I am not going to allow America to become a religious, Christian Taliban. I'm not. You're not going to take our world and turn it into a religious forced Christian cuckfest. Not going to happen. Not on my watch. We're going to fight. So the thing about it is, I was concerned that middle America, white rural voters, especially white men in these small towns, were not going to vote for a black woman. That's what I was worried about. Then the enthusiasm came, and I thought maybe we got this, maybe we're going to Obama this. And then there were some mistakes that were made. Obviously, it happened late in the game. The leftists defected. Even after Tim Walz, the leftists defected. The Trump camp, rallied, with their racism like they always do. I think also there were a couple of moments where Kamala Harris failed to execute, and I'll talk about them real quick. I didn't talk about them during the campaign because I wasn't going to bring negativity to the campaign. But here's a couple moments that I thought that she failed to execute. Number one is the one that Mehdi Hassan posted about when she was on The View. This was a big one. This was one that was really tough for Kamala. It was a pivotal moment where she could have made a different choice that maybe would have blazed a different trail. Hard to pinpoint any particular one moment where she lost, but this has to be high up on the list of potentials. Okay, so right here is, you ready? Here we go.
If anything, would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most.
Right there, okay? That was really hard for her because, let me explain this, because I think I understand her reasoning. She didn't want to throw Joe Biden under the bus. She wanted to show loyalty to the guy who stepped down for her. She wanted to show unity and not be Trumpian or whatever. But that was an opportunity she missed. I don't think it was a mistake, but it was an opportunity that she missed because the opportunity she had there was to separate herself from the border, to separate herself from inflation, to separate herself from a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? She had an opportunity there to leave the Biden administration, separate herself from Gaza. She had an opportunity there to cut the cord to the attacks because everybody in Trump land was attacking her based on Biden. And I think maybe she was afraid if she threw Biden under the bus, his people wouldn't vote for her or something. But that was an opportunity there where she sort of missed. That was a big one. Now, there was another one that I think resonated with me, and this was during the town hall with Jake Tapper. She had just come off the debate. She had debated Trump and kicked his ass, right? She had that Brett Baer interview where he was combative and she kicked his ass, right? And then what she did was this town hall, just her and the audience, and they had that audience stacked with Republicans. They had the question about Israel. They had the question about Palestine. They had the guy who was like, what specific things are you going to do for the economy? That young Republican kid. And they kind of ambushed her, and Jake Tapper held her feet to the flame. Now, the one thing she didn't do in that town hall, and I'm not saying this would have won the election because it probably wouldn't, but I did want to see it. But the one thing she didn't do in that town hall was open up and go off talking points. Even in her answers, she would always come back to her talking points. And what I wanted to see in that town hall was her being a little more conversational. The reason why, because we know Donald Trump is the king of sit down and bullshit. And I wanted her to sit down and bullshit a little bit because I wanted her to not let them be able to single her out for not having that. And she lost an opportunity. That was the opportunity for her to just have a conversation with that kid and her talking points. But to sit there and say, you know what? I really feel like corporations are taking advantage of us and they're buying up housing. And I want to stop that. You realize they say that they're going to own 40% of housing by 2030. And we can stop that. And I want to fight for you. So the thing is, she did leave some plays on the field. And there was another mistake, guys. I don't know if you noticed this, but this was another mistake. I kept tight lip about it, but it happened several times. They would ask her the question of why didn't you enshrine Roe v. Wade? And she would say, well, I couldn't get it through Congress. We didn't have the votes in the House. But then they would ask her later, well, how are you going to pass this price gouging legislation? And she's like, oh, I'm going to run it through Congress. And so I don't know if she realized that, but she simultaneously said she couldn't get shit through Congress when she was in office. And then sometimes she got ensnared by promising she was going to get shit through this Congress. And that was a little bit of a slip up They caught her a couple times. But you ready though, guys? Here's the heartbreaking thing. Let me explain the heartbreaking thing right here, guys. The fact that I'm even saying this shows you what the problem was. She needed to be perfect. She needed to be perfect. I can isolate the 3 critical mistakes she made, and it wouldn't have mattered anyway, because if she made one mistake, she was going to lose because she was a black woman. Whereas Donald Trump could get up there and yell, they're eating the dogs. He could lie every third word, can suck off the microphone and call people trash, sleazebags, and bitches, and he was going to win anyway, because America's a fucking racist country, and we're a patriarchal, evangelical-based country right now, heartbreakingly. And so that was bro. And they voted for the rapist, criminal, microphone filleting, lying, deceitful, despicable, no platform, bullshitting, incapable, nepo baby son of a bitch. Because they would rather put a rapist in power than a woman. And when I say they, I mean most of white America. Most of white America. Not all. A lot of white America voted for her. We fought. We pulled. A lot of us states, we did our duty. And we brought her in. But you go to the Midwest, and I knew it was going to be a hard sell, guys. I knew it was going to be a hard sell. And this was my fear. This was the brunt of my argument with leftists when they first tried to get Biden to step down, because I knew if Biden stepped down, we had to go with Kamala Harris. They couldn't have a primary because there was like $400 million that could only go to her. So we had to go with Kamala Harris. There was no choice, which was going to cause some people to balk, especially leftists. I knew they were going to throw her under the bus too, because she couldn't be pro-Palestine without them calling her a terrorist from the Republicans. So she was going to be in a pickle. It was a black woman who, even though she got our votes and we voted for her in the primary through Joe Biden, I knew it presented a number of obstacles that were going to be exploitable. And I knew that the people in the Midwest were going to kind of do I don't know what it is about her, but I just don't trust her, because that's what they do. Okay, so here's what I want to do. This channel is going to be about the Trump resistance, and it's going to be about a Trump-free space for us to get away from all that shit. Because out there, you're on Twitter, you're on Instagram, you're out in the real world. It is a world of shit. We have racist, misogynist, xenophobic, F-slur using, emboldened, toxic motherfuckers trying to spew their shit. And they believe they now have the right. They have the mandate, right? Because of this prick who won this election. So it's ugly out there. And we're building an army here, a safe space where they come in here and say one thing and they're gone forever. They can't even watch. So they can't even infect us by watching. And we are going to bring our energy. You can bring your energy of you're scared, you're filled with despair, you're depressed. I'll take it all. Okay. I will do my best to take all of that energy from you guys and do what I do, which is to churn it into hope and optimism and keeping the eye on the ball and not being afraid, because I am not afraid. Okay. I am not afraid. I am not afraid even if he goes full dictator. I grew up with the most authoritarian man. I was sexually abused. I've had addiction issues. I've been through it all. I am not afraid, okay? And I will take all that energy and I will convert it to hope and keep doing that, and we will keep fighting. But I'm telling you, it's going to get worse. It is going to get worse. It feels really big now because we didn't think it was going to happen, and it's happening, but it's going to get worse when we start feeling the effects. If the prices go way up, if people start losing their jobs, it could get real ugly real quick, okay? And if they get into wars, if he does battle with, tries to withhold shit or prosecute people in California and they say, you, we're gonna withhold our food supply. I mean, we could go through some really dark times, guys. You know what I'm saying? I don't think it's gonna come to that. I don't, but it could. But we know that the toxicity is coming and it's going to ramp up. The more they get away with, the worse it's going to get. But the thing about it is, though, guys, is we're going to win. I promise you that. Even if they control the government for the next 12 years and we have to go through some type of like metaphorical civil war, we are going to win, okay? We are going to win. The light wins here. They defeated slavery, guys. Think about our history. They separated from England. They fought a war. They kicked their ass. Then they kicked their own people's ass when they said, we're done with slavery. Then we broke through segregation. You know what I'm saying? Broke through segregation and ended that. We are going to win. But the problem is we may go through a lot of hurt in order to win. We may go through a lot of pain in order to win. But I want you guys to know, though, that this time we have together, this couple of hours of the day where we go over this shit, we are going to be the center of the Trump resistance. And I'm telling you that I will make space for all your fear and all that negative energy. I'm going to make space for it, guys. And I'm really good at this, okay? I'm really good at taking pain and turning it into hope. I am like a hope generating machine. But one thing I pledge to you, though, is that we are never going to allow them into this space. We're not giving them an ounce. We will root them out and remove them. They are going to be mass deported from our stream every fucking day. Okay, talk about mass deportation. You want a mass deportation? Well, guess what, MAGA? You're the motherfuckers getting deported. You know, you asked for it. You got it. You wanted it to be part of your platform. Now, daddy's fucking bringing the platform home. So that's where I'm at.